I'm really excited to have you all here. I also have a very special guest today joining us from Virgin Pearls, Carlos. He's going to share some expert insights on how generative AI can be adopted into enterprise, especially in your automation strategy, how it has been evolving in the last weeks, months, and how they see the adoption happening into the enterprises. So that's going to be the day. It's going to be an hour filled with a lot of demos, a lot of questions and discussions and debate. If you have any questions at any point in time, any idea that you want to share, please use the question and answers in the poll chat, or just drop us a chat. We will pick up those questions as soon as possible, or at least towards the end of the session. That's the promise. Before we dive into the actual session, I just wanted to ensure that you all know one of the exciting news coming from RoboCorp, that we are officially part of Semaphore AI. We are joining hands together in achieving the vision of bringing AI to every knowledge worker, how you can use the insights that is there in the data in your large enterprise systems, and with that insights, how can you get some AI intelligent actions running and giving you benefits in the enterprise. So that's done. That's one of the news that I wanted to share before we get started. Now we'll head over to our first section of the Product Hour Live, which is the monthly update. Let me just quickly bring my screen up. Cool. Can you all see my screen yet? Drop me a message when you see the screen. Cool. I did not want to scare you off with VS Code in the beginning, but let's start with some quick slides. So all the goodness that happened between the last time we saw you, we have three major highlights in the product releases this month. Remark, as you all know, a generative AI based chat assistant which helps you in code generation, helps you in debugging. It's now going to be as a widget. We have a few updates on control room and a new inspector tool that we have released. First, to see what's happening with Remark, you have all used Remark on chat.robocorp.com. It's a very powerful tool that helps you get started on RoboCorp, helps you build Python automation, helps you with any error, any debugging that you need assistance with. It's almost like a senior developer sitting right next to you. It was available as a web interface then and as a Slack channel, but now it's all available on all our docs page and on our portal. So the beauty of this is it acts as a very small widget on the left of the screen. On any of these docs pages, it understands the context on that particular page, and it can help you better right before you start asking the question. It can already know the context that you are in, and you can start having conversation on that. And of course, you can take it back to chat.robocorp.com to continue that conversation and pick it from next time as well. So that's one of the biggest updates. We want Remark to be truly integrated across the developer resources that we have, so that you get the best experience and you need not have to jump between multiple screens or multiple tabs to get the benefits and the assistance from Remark. That's the first update. You should just definitely go to any of our doc site. You will be able to find it on the right bottom. It's a very cute little widget thanks to our design team, and it can just go off and minimize when you don't require it. Cool. The other update is on the control room. The processes that you have on control room, you have more flexibility in enabling and disabling every individual process. Assume you are going through some maintenance work of a particular application or set of applications that is in a process. You can quickly disable it for a period of maintenance, and then enable it when you want it. So this allows you not to have any unnecessary reruns when the underlying applications or systems or users are not available. Disabling a process will not stop any executing actions that are currently in. There is going to be no impact on that. It is going to finish those tasks that are already started, and the subsequent ones are not going to be triggered. So it is applicable for your UI, API, or any triggers that you have scheduled. So that's the flexibility that now you can get in the control room per process at a process level. The next item is the new inspector tool. The inspector tool is an important aspect for a developer when they're building an automation, right? Whether it is on a web-based application or a Windows-based applications. You need to understand the elements. You need to understand the locators of various elements that are there on the screen. So the new inspector tool acts as a very streamlined management of all your locators in one place. It comes already with your Robocore code extension. Does not need any new widget, any new installations beyond the Robocore code extension that you have already enabled. It gives you the ability to record and replay, of course, but also gives you enough capability to manage, modify, edit, and quickly see what's happening. I mean, you have, if it is a Windows Windows inspector, it gives you the ability to create parent-child kind of a relationship, so that if there are multiple elements which look similar, which has exactly same name that is visible to you, but it can be identified still uniquely with the parent-child rule and various other locator strategies. It applies to the same for browser automation as well. There are multiple browsers that are supported, and then multiple type of elements that you can select. You can record and play back. You can validate your strategy if you have changed some strategy. It can also generate code immediately with the arguments that you can directly copy and to your automation project, without having to just take the locator and then build your automation together. So it's a very cool new tool. Definitely enhances the power that gives to our developers. At the same time, gives you that ease of use and complete control on how you interact with any UI element. We are going to definitely come to you with a very detailed product hour live, going in detail, showing you a lot of examples of how this tool can help you build automations very reliably. But that's a topic for another day. So those are the 3 updates. Now let's directly get into AI actions. So the last product hour live, we unveiled AI actions, some predefined tasks written in Python that can execute any action. That could be an API call, that could be a database call, that could be interacting with your enterprise applications like ERPs, like SAPs or Salesforce or CRMs, or an application that you might have built in Java 20 years ago, or database that is probably even older than us. So irrespective of the action that you want to take on any of the target applications, AI actions can help you do that in a very safe, secured, predefined way with an interface of a generative AI layer. So it can be your chat GPT, it can be a custom GPT, it can be an open GPT, or it can be any other generative AI application that you have built that can be exposing to these AI actions, right? So that is the power of, that by that you can give the power of execution to the brilliance of LLMs and generative AI that's already there with LLM models. So it can understand your context really, really well and decide which action to be executed, but in a very safe and secured way. All of the code is already built by developers, tested by developers, approved by your business users within the enterprise, within the business COEs, and then exposed to these AI actions, which can decide what type of action to be executed, and it gets executed on the app very securely. So that's AI actions. This is the time I would like to invite my special guest of the day, Carlos from Virgin Pulse. Carlos has been a leader in the space of automation for a long time, and he's considered as a thought leader in many ways. I would like to bring Carlos on stage, please. Okay. Hey, Carlos.
Hi, John. Thanks for having me.
How are you today?
I'm doing great. I look forward to the conversation. We're excited about it.
Cool. Carlos, tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I've been in technology for a little bit over 30 years. Kind of dates me there, but I for first part of my career, I spent time working in many startups and very large companies like Microsoft. And my focus at that point was mostly building interfaces and web applications for end members. And so it's kind of very satisfying to build something that gets then used by millions of people. So I spent a lot of my career doing that. But then kind of the second part of my career, I spent most of my time trying to find ways to improve the way that the people within our companies work, how improve efficiency within those companies. So, it's also satisfying because you get to talk to them face to face, and you get to solve problems right there, and you get that feedback. So I think, it's a good, it's both good experiences to, build things that are used by millions of people, at the same time build applications and solve solutions, face to face. So, excited that, I'm doing that for Virgin Pulse.
Cool. But how does the automation fit into this?
Yeah, so I mean, as many large companies, we focus a lot of our resources on building applications for our end members, which is probably the right way to invest. But a lot of times, the internal resources don't have a lot of that, that take into the capacity of the team. So I focus on improving the ways that people are working, and we've traditionally been doing that with the use of RPA. We also have a low-code development that we do in our end. But through RPA, we are improving how either taking some of that work from what used to be manual work and replacing that with unattended automations that people are now using, the background. But as of late, we are actually more and more using more of the attended automation, kind of where we're trying to bring the people in the mix of the automations again, to allow them to be, as we all know, with automations, be more creative, make more decisions, and not having to do the manual work. So we have contributed to hundreds of thousands of hours saved in the company, millions of dollars of savings by delivering these automations. And I think what we now will be talking here more about with AI action kind of takes it to the next phase. So, excited to introduce that into kind of the ecosystem and the solutions we're building.
Cool. Let's talk about when we say the next phase, let's talk about the evolution that you have seen. You have been doing automations in various shapes and forms. How do you see that has been evolving in the last maybe a decade or maybe a couple of years until now? And how do you see this?
Yeah, I mean, so there's been traditional automations existed for many years before the term RPA became true, right? I mean, macros, all kinds of ways of doing automations in the past, right? So that always existed. Eventually, tools, like RoboCorp and others have changed the way that, more local developers have been able to interact and create, automations for our companies. And but for a long time, and has provided a great benefit. We created unattended, right? It runs in the background in some VM, and they are either scheduled, they get triggered somewhere, and they're very, very beneficial. We build hundreds of those, and I'm sure many of your customers have done that as well. But I think is shifting now to, we want to make the individual be part of that. And and that's where I think the evolution how it's taking it to more of this attended automation, right? And where I'm interacting with the bot, currently that interaction has to be very structured. And I think with the use of generative AI and natural language, we can evolve that. I always think about, like, how other technologies have evolved. I mean, when we first got the first iPhone, it was like the best thing ever, right? Revolutionary. But not until we got jobs, it became like, okay, now this is a different, this is different, right? And I kind of see that. I mean, generative AI, everybody, wow. But it's like, okay, now what can I do other than, just pulling content, translations, and all the fun things? Is like, well, where do we take it from here? And I think, actions and, that are not only, what you guys are doing, but where you see things like, Rabbit, like, now I can interact with a device that is going to do things for me. Or you see like Figure, like all these actual robots that are using natural language input to go do something, right? So I think that's the evolution. Is like, okay, let's go from just having content be displayed at me to actually help me do something, right? Take an action, right? And that action can be physical or virtual, right?
True. And within that, we also went through exactly the same level of evolution from a product prism. One of the things that we first released was Remark, where we use generative AI to make an assistant that is going to generate code. It is going to be still passive. It's going to use your text generation skills and code generation skills, help you build automation. But that's just the beginning, right? The actions is the real evolution, where beyond just thinking and discussing and debating that, hey, this was the right code and this is the right algorithm to use, or this is the right library to use. What if AI is able to trigger the actions, or make sure that an action executes with multiple parameters that is given to it, with the context of the interaction that it is having with the knowledge worker? It could be from an HR to a procurement officer to an invoice processing finance person. So that has also been our evolution. So did you try any of these generative AI based code generation techniques? Did you use Remark within your teams, or are there any other tools that your developers currently use in building automations?
Yeah, I mean, we have an engineering organization that uses all the tools embedded within VS Code and Copilot tools. So they have definitely created a lot of opportunities. But also now with Remark, our team has been using Remark. I mean, we are growing our team, and it's a great way for them to to get on board and to and to learn. And we're probably not at the stage that we can 100% take code and be 100% functional, but it gets you, it could get you 50%, 70% there. And I believe that a lot of my team is using it, and we continue seeing that it's getting better and better. I mean, as you the evolution of the LLMs are every day, there's something new, and there's better LLMs that can take more context. I know we're excited for a moment that you can take your whole Git repository and put it in the LLM, right? So now it has context around everything, not just what you see on the screen, right? So I mean, with more tokens that get created and get put into these things, I think it's just going to make it better and better every day. So yeah, we're excited, and we're definitely users of products like Remark.
Cool. And also you mentioned Copilot. I think, yeah, the future is going to be with these tools as assistants, as plugins, as widgets that are going to help the developer through the journey. May not reduce the the number of developers that are required, because I think we recently saw a software engineer demo this week earlier, Devin. But I think how we see is that it's going to optimize the time that a developer spends on building the code. And I think comes back to the point of Robocorp's view that has been forever, that automation should be a code. Automation is a service as a code. Automation as a code is what is required, so that your LLMs, your co-pilots, or any other generative AI applications are able to understand it than just being some boxes. It not only gives flexibility, but it gives context of what you have built so far, so that it can analyze and predict and give you answers and suggestions and algorithms based on the context that is there and the reality of the applications that you have in the ecosystem already. So that's really cool point you have made, Carlos. Now, shifting the gears a bit, have you used AI action so far? Even if it at an experimental level, what has been your experience so far?
Yeah, I mean, we are very early, as many of using AI actions in with RoboCorp, and I mean we experimented. I mean, I know that we started with the first version and is evolved. I'm sure you're gonna tell us how it's evolving here soon. But yeah, I mean we have, and it's funny you mentioned before about all applications when you were talking about. I mean, we are in my industry, in healthcare, a lot of times we deal with very old applications. I mean, we have systems that are probably built in like in the 1980s, and there is no way to interact with those applications unless you have keyboard, shortcuts. And so now we're able to think about, is well through a natural language prompt and actually, and then a bot that supports that, you can take in, a natural language, question, and through that in that interface, then you can go and execute an action inside of that terminal, as an example, right? So, I mean, we're exploring different ideas. Like another idea that we continue to explore, and we made a lot of progress, and many companies have, in how we support our member services team, right? Member services, are looking at tickets, right? And traditionally, AI has helped with, hey, let's take a ticket that comes into our inbox or whatever ticketing system you use, and helps you maybe auto-generate an answer, or prompts you with, or tells you like, hey, here, let's go look at this knowledge base and give you some suggestions of answer. But what about if we can suggest actions, right? Let's not just say, oh, well, this person is asking for a refund, or this person needs to change their password, but it's like, well, here's two, three actions that you can take, and allow the agent now to interface with that action and to say, well, hey, actually, this is what the person needs. Let me push the button, and the action goes in and completes that work for them. Again, taking that part of that, because a lot of times, they're interfacing with all systems, or maybe even bringing multiple systems together. So, that is just some of the use cases that we've been kind of exploring.
Does it start with any specific division, do you see, or can it be across functions? Like, is it going to be finance first, like it was the case with the typical RPA, or is it going to be do you see that there are potential that across functions there are possibilities of interacting?
Yeah, I mean, I think the potential is there for most parts of organization. I think risk is something that is considered. And where are you making the decisions, or where do you want to start with, right? And so I mean, financial systems, or systems that you may want to be more cautious about. because you're interacting with something that potentially can, if you're not careful, can cause issues, right? So it would probably will start more with the proving the capability with systems that are low level risk, right? That it can easily be reverted back if something were to happen. Naturally, prompt engineering is still something that is not easy for many people, and making sure that you're providing the right prompt to drive the action is something that we'll have to experiment more. And the validation steps that need to happen are also very important, right? Like, are you sure you want to do that? And providing the feedback to the person. So those are the type of things. I think the potential is there, but I think this is something that we'll tread lightly, and will evolve as the technology continues to improve.
Correct. Yeah, I think even though the code is not generated at fly, as you rightly said, the auditability, the feedback, and why did the generative AI take an action? What was the reason behind it, right? Like, what made it take that particular decision, and what type of actions was executed, the trace of it, who called it, how many times have these APIs have been called. All of that needs to be traced back really well. There has to be audit trails of these. And also, most importantly, one of the things is to how do we ensure that all of this runs in one environment, which is the customer's environment, right? Like in your own private cloud, or because all of this needs to touch your own systems, your own ERPs, your own CRMs, your own internal tools. So I think this is going to evolve. AI Actions is in developer preview. We are adding a lot of features based on the inputs that we get from you, the customers, and the partners, and the larger community. But yeah, it's really interesting to see. So that was really insightful, Carlos. Let's jump into some demos, and I think we are sure going to reconnect some of the thoughts that you had on some of the examples that you were sharing. We will see on the screen as we go. I'll let you go off stage for a couple of minutes as you grab some water, but I will pull you back in right when we are going through these demos. Feel free to chime in with your inputs and insights. Yeah, thanks, Carlos.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, now let's without further ado, let's start sharing the screen. Do you see my screen? Okay. Let's start with the simplest thing that is possible, and then I will show you everything that has happened between the last time we met, where we had everything from a command line to how the developer experience has improved. So I have a quick GPT that I have created with custom GPT. This is on OpenAI ChatGPT product. If you are on an enterprise subscription or a private subscription, you can create your own GPTs. I'll show that part in a minute. How can you create GPTs once you have an action server and AI actions working? This does a very simple thing. I have a web form with a couple of inputs, first name, last name, and I just want to fill that form. So let's say, please fill the contact us form for Tejus Venkatesh. So Tejus@semaphore.ai. That's my new email ID. You can also drop me to robocop.com, but this is the new email ID that you can all contact me. A company is from the company semaphore.ai. Want to see product demos, and maybe I will drop my mobile number. Is 92827. Okay, so my action server is let's see if my action server is running. Let's just restart once. Cool. My action server is running on my local machine. And I have given some of the inputs that is there on this form. And let's try to run this. So it's the same ChatGPT interface that you are all quite familiar with, but it understands that it has to call my action server. I just confirm that it can make a call. So the user have the complete control of what goes out. So it opens and it starts filling, and that's it. I mean, I have given a bit of delay so that you can see what's happening on the screen. It is going to submit, and then the GPT is going to come back to me and confirm that the details are filled. Don't worry, it was actually a test form. We are not going to bother our demand gen team or our marketing team with all those extra loads. So that's it. I mean, it's that simple, right? Like, you have a chat GPT interface or a generative AI application. It is not only limited to OpenAI's ChatGPT, but it could be something like Remark, something like an OpenGPT from LangChain, or any other framework that you might have used. You have this interface exposed to the user, knowledge user, who's going to interact with the application in the natural language. GPT can understand the context, extract various inputs from it, because if you see, it's a free form input, just like any prompt that you would provide. It picks up and it sends all of this data to my action, which is currently running on my local machine, and executes the task. So that's in the simplest of the form. Now let's see, how does this actually look in terms of code? So if you go to okay, so this is the action package. Two important updates. One is that probably last time when you were using it would have been tasks.py. Now we call it as actions.py. And we have package.yaml, which is going to take care of all your dependencies at once. So all your pip installations, all your dependencies can be managed right from here. And all your actions, multiple actions, can be written in the actions.py file. All that is required is an action decorator. You just need to say that this is going to be an action, and that's it. You can have any number of function definitions here, but just with that decorator, you are letting know the action server and the GPT, therefore, that this is going to be something that can be exposed and that can be executed by GPT. With some description like this, you help the GPT understand the intent of this action, what are the type of arguments that it is going to get, and what are the type of returns that this particular action does, whether it gives you back some confirmation, does it give you back some unique input like a reference number or anything that can be returned back to the GPTs, and then you can take it forward. Last time to now, the improvement in terms of developer experience itself, I would really like to highlight, is that now you have task or action package right from your VS Code extension. So what this basically does, it helps you, you need not go to command prompt and run your actions anymore. You can all do that within your developer environment, like an IDE, like Visual Studio Code is. You can put some debug points, you can run it locally here. You can configure some of these actions as well. Let me quickly try to run this. I can stop the action server right here and go back to running this action. In dev data, there is going to be some inputs. I'm going to delete it. So if you have built any number of actions, instead of exposing it to a GPT or exposing it to locally on your local host web interface, you can directly run it from your VS Code here. However, it needs an input, right? Because this particular action currently takes several parameters. So you can create input parameters right from here and run the action and debug the action by providing debug points. So that's been the developer experience. We want to match the experience whether you're building a task which is going to run as an automation on control room as a process in an unattended or attended mode, or if you are building an action. So we want to give you equally, if not better, experience in terms of control, in terms of flexibility, in terms of getting through that debug mode without having to run it from the GPT, so that you are extremely sure before you expose this to a GPT or any other generative AI interface. And any questions on the developer tool side? Any questions on the structure of an action package? An action package can contain multiple actions in the same Python file. You have package.yaml, which is going to help you manage all your dependencies right from a third-party library or a Robocorp library or any other dependencies that you might have. The good old RCC comes in the abstract. It doesn't show anywhere else, but it helps you package that all your dependencies, just like how you have tested on this machine. Wherever you are going to deploy, it's going to create exactly the same kind of environment, irrespective of what type of Python environment there is on the execution machine. There might be multiple versions, there might be conflicts, but package.yaml along with RCC is going to ensure that none of those dependencies, none of those versions and mismatches are going to occur when you actually run it on any target machines. So that's the beauty. So now let's go back now and look at some other code. Let's go to this Google Sheets. Probably this is our MVP demo. It's been used quite well within our customers and partners so far. So this is an example where you can interact with an Office tool like an Excel or a Google Sheet or a database, right, where there is a lot of data. How can you interact with those databases or office products where you need to read the data and then also write the data? We saw UI interfaces done. That's already something that we have seen. Now let's see a non-UI, but also not just an API, but much more than an API. So I'll just go to Google Sheets demo and then trigger this action server start expose. If I want to just do the testing, I can do the testing right from VS Code, but I now want to go and run it from a GPT interface. That's why I'm doing it. I've already done this, and hence this URL, I'm going to reuse this URL. Otherwise also it can be a new URL. So this is a Google Sheets GPT. Let me quickly show you how do you build that. There is something called as actions here. You just need to copy and paste the URL, which is going to open an OpenAI spec, Open API spec, and then you provide your API key and your type of API. I have already done this, but just trying to show you that this is how it's done. You provide the API key, and then you provide the URL here, which will fetch an Open API description, which is going to help GPT understand what does this particular package have, the various types of actions. It's one package but has multiple actions in it, and various methods that are exposed to it, right? So let me go back and say that I have this particular sheet that is exposed to this. It's just an expense tracker, various places I've been to and how much I have spent over the trip. Just like your Concur or any other expense tracker, assume that this is one such expense tracker where I have kept some information. Now, I want to ask from this particular sheet how much I have spent on, say, meals. So let's ask from my expense tracker, tell me how much I have spent on meals. So what this basically does is that, as you saw, there were multiple actions. It's going to talk to one of the action, understand the schema of that particular sheet. So it goes to that Google sheet, understands what are the columns that are there in this particular sheet. Since I have mentioned this sheet. And once that is done, it's going to then go read all the data from that particular sheet. So it probably had some sheet. Could you please check if yes? Okay, let's try it again. Yeah, so basically it first tries to read through the schema that is there in this particular sheet, and then tries to bring in the data and then make the analysis. Looks like a connection issue. Always demos. Let's bring Carlos on stage until I figure this out. Maybe I'll have some conversations with Carlos. The idea there was to, if there is a database of database like that, or an Excel sheet or any other application where there is a lot of data from multiple transactions in the background, how do we fetch that data in the first place and also make some analysis on it? Are there some examples like this in your current operations? Do you think that this is?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately you want to allow for more self-service capabilities. So, we may have, for example, teams from sales or marketing that are looking for some information, and today they would have to go in and either going to create a report or extract or some kind. So would it be easier for someone to say, hey, go fetch me this data, and that would connect to a data store, Snowflake or whatever it is where we have that data and fetch data. I mean, it is a real example. Someone that we haven't explored too much yet, but again, it all comes down to I'm in the middle of the night and I'm trying to get some information from my meeting tomorrow with my client. Well, I'm not going to get a response from my data guy. I'm a sales guy. I'm not going to be able to write SQL probably, or have, so having access to where I can say, hey, fetch me this data. What is the latest numbers for this client, or, how many members do they have in their plan, or whatever it is, and it can pull that data from a data store. I think it's creating that efficiencies that I think, we're looking for our internal teams. So that this does have that potential.
Cool. But do you think this is only about retrieving of the data, or is there a possibility of pushing the data back also, provided that it's guarded by the security, guarded by predictability?
Yeah, I mean, I think in certain scenarios, especially like if we ever get to a point too that I mean, some places, I mean, some data sources, we protect with APIs. So, we can make sure that the data is structured in a way that, the API will govern what goes into the end systems. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, I think definitely opportunities to, for example, change a phone number or change an email address, right? I mean, that would be something that it will be fairly easy to do, where you say, hey, pull this information, you can visualize the data, and say, well, now change the email address of the person from this to that. And it would do that without an issue, and then come back to the validation of that response. So we definitely, I can see opportunities with that.
Yeah. And I think how we are visualizing AI actions to be is more than like generating code or generating those SQL queries on the fly.
Mhm.
Rather than that, it is going to be some stored procedures or stored set of actions that are going to be predefined, and you will
Mhm.
execute only those, even if it's a right action. Because just information pulling is not going to be enough in most of the cases. It's going to be a combination of retrieval and also posting those data. But when as you rightly said, there will be a lot of governing factors, a lot of framework that needs to be there in place before we commit something into the data, whether it's a database, whether it's an SAP or an Oracle or any other ERP or CRMs. It's going to be the same, whether it's going to be via an API call or a direct data access or a UI led or an API led access into these systems. There has to be enough guardrails, and that's where AI actions comes into a place where we are not letting the generative AI build the code, but
Mhm.
it's just going to decide one amongst the predefined code that we already have, what is the one that needs to get executed.
Yeah, I mean, within that function of the action, you can make sure that you do validation, for example, prior to ingesting data into something, right? So you can build those
Mm,
validation steps, and making sure that there's data integrity, for example,
mm,
that even if the LLM returns with something that we shouldn't be ingesting, then I think we can put a layer where it says, well, validate the data before it gets ingested, and if it's not
correct.
proper, then I mean, then it can be response back from that part of the action to say, we need additional data. Your primary key is not available, so you're missing the email address, which is a required field, for example, right? So yeah, I agree. I mean, I think generating you know code on the fly and executing SQL statements, probably not something that we will do in a real world, in an enterprise, for sure.
Correct, correct. Sorry, I just brought my screen up while we were speaking. Maybe just to ensure that while it was creating, I show it live. Maybe it was a bit shy to be on the camera first. I
Live
don't need
demos.
all. Cool. I'm going to show what happened with this particular demo. So I talked to my sheets, read through the sheet called as expense tracker, got this data. Now let me ask, how much did I spend on meals? And this should currently calculate the date, and give me some analysis. So I have made it verbose, but it can be short. It can be asked to prompt only the output. So I can control that, all of that, quite easily with the instructions that is possible. Okay, so fair enough. So we had the meals in Helsinki, Paris, and Rome. Let's say, let's look at some of the data here. So it has been able to read 1, 2, 3 meals. That's cool. Let me also say that while I was in Bucharest, I had a meal, and let's see if it can add it back. It was on 29th Jan and costed me $30. Let's see. Now it already knows the schema of my Excel sheet, so it should basically try to add this, not only just read, but it has the ability to write it back to my sheet as well. So it should be able to do that. Cool. So it did add, let's see, it says, yeah, it has added Cafe Star in Bucharest, about $30. The date is right. What you also need to understand is that it was able to understand the category, right? Because of the context. I did not mention the category explicitly, but it was intelligent enough to understand that it was, because I was talking about meals anyway, and it was a coffee at a similar restaurant that I had already been. So there is this intelligence that's already coming with the power of GPTs and LLMs. So that's one of the demos. Are there any questions and comments? Anything that you want to see live? So there was a question from Louise. Was the error because the sheet was open? No, it wasn't. It wasn't the case. I think I while trying to show you how the API key was added, I think I had added a wrong API key, and also Steven says the story of every developer on a demo. that happens. We are in a developer preview. We are in a live show, so it's quite obvious to make mistakes. That's the beauty of humans versus AI. I think we do to err as human, I would say.
So you see the potential here that I could probably say something like, "Hey, submit this expense report, to this system, right?" And if you had the action where it would, take in, that spreadsheet, for example, and then ingest it into whatever system you have, either legacy systems or whatever it is.
True. Yeah, that's cool. And it opens up so many possibilities. I'm see the clock. We are almost on time, and I'm not even half done with the list of demos that I wanted to do. But we will obviously share all these good examples that are there. So let me just quickly bring up my screen once again. We have Actions Cookbook repository. I'll quickly drop this onto the chat so that you all have it. All of these examples are available to you. You can download this, run it on your own machines. You just need to have those service accounts and some of these API keys where you are interacting with APIs, but you get everything that is there. The code examples are there, the dependencies are there. Also, feel to contribute to this repository with any of the ideas that you have. Really appreciate all those insights and all those experiments that you are doing. Show it to the world on the cookbook. Also, we have moved to a completely new repository under RoboCorp. Give us a star. That will also help. One last announcement before we go. Say, for example, if I go to Doc's site, you will, or on my portal, you will see a survey that we are running, a survey on AI applications and your insights, how much you are into the journey of generative AI and how much of LLMs you have used. We are trying to hear some feedback from you, insights from you that will help us shape the product roadmap. I'm going to quickly try and see if I can paste the link on the chat. There's a $25 gift voucher to some of the winners, some of the lucky winners. We're gonna do a raffle with the submissions. So please submit your insights and the feedback that you have on these generative AI applications and GPTs that you have worked on. Should have been here already. While I bring that, Carlos, any last thoughts before we wrap up?
No, well, and I look forward to seeing many more examples, and kind of love to share with others what we're doing. So yeah, feel free to friend me in LinkedIn, and we can always keep connecting from there.
Cool. Thank you so much, Carlos. Thanks for joining this. It was really wonderful to have you. All of those invaluable insights that you have provided to us on the evolution and how bullish you are on using generative AI in your enterprise, especially with AI actions. Thanks for all of that. Thanks for your patience through the demos as well. And thank you everyone that joined the session today. I'm going to come back to you with some more exciting demos. Maybe we will make some offline videos and make it available on YouTube. But do please refer to Actions Cookbook, where you can get all of these examples that you can play around and experience with. And also, please take a look into the AI community survey and provide your insights and get a chance to win $25 voucher. Thanks once again, and thank you, Pekka, who is not on the screen now, but helping me manage the show today as the director. Thank you, everyone. Have a very safe next few weeks. I'll see you soon again. Take care. Bye-bye.